So 30-second resume for a job seeker is not entirely different than that 30 seconds that an entrepreneur might want to use in a networking event. There are changes, little differences in both, but we're going to look at that. We're going to start from the outside in. We want to just get practical here. So let's talk about lighting and sound, then we'll talk about framing and environment. So clearly, we want to be seen. And Ellie has some really wonderful things, some real pointers on her website talking about specifics that we're going to go through together, maybe even. But in terms of, she will say, you don't want to be lit from behind. That is true, and it's because the camera follows light. So if there's a lot of light behind you, it's going to pick up that light and you will be dimmer. I'm the first to say, though, I think I'm talking to real professionals in here, and many of you know exactly what you're doing, and you are lit. I can see you. So that may be less of an issue than a newcomer who needs kind of that help in saying, by the way, find your light, even if it means turning your computer or your phone to the sunlight when it's really diffused at a window so that you really get your face bathed in some light and we can see you. And what I might say is overhead light can be okay, but not necessarily if you don't want to accentuate bags and look tired. I also know that sometimes I'll use overhead light and it will turn my hair gray and my hair is pretty dark. So little factors like that. And those are the kind of things maybe we'll go into more in the workshop next week with particulars. But for right now, we're going to keep it streamlined and simple because what we really want to do is get more to the inside. I will say this in terms of sound. I watched a wonderful, perfectly respectable video resume. Everything was good except the sound. I don't know if I was hearing her heater turn on, a fan in the room, maybe she was near her refrigerator. Clear the decks when you're going to record that 30-second video or any recording we're doing as entrepreneurs as well, so that it's quiet, because we want to hear you within silence. And I will say this, clearly when you're near your computer, or if you're using your phone, you're close enough to have good sound. But particularly, and possibly with our millennial job-seeking group, if they are using their phone, you can plug in for less than $20 a little lavalier mic and hide it under your clothing, or if you're a guy, you can absolutely wear it on your lapel and feel, very important if you want. It will make such a difference in sound. And those recruiters, those hiring people, might be very surprised and have a second look at somebody who's sounding so good, because when you use a mic like that, all of a sudden you are in our ear. It's really professional sounding and it takes you to a whole other level. So it's quite exciting. Environment. Sometimes if you do use a phone, again, I might be speaking more to our millennial job seekers, you might have a tendency to want to go vertical. And sometimes people do this because they want to hide it. Maybe they don't have the best room, and that is respectable and understandable. But if you can make it work so you have the complete landscape and you're absolutely recording horizontally, because that's what the platform offers, take your space. When we can see more around you, including you, we breathe better. It anchors you better. You frame yourself better. Discover, play with it. How much height over here? How much do you want here? If you're too low, is there something that loses your groundedness? Do you want to be seated higher so that all of a sudden you look more anchored. And I'll tell you something else that happens. When you anchor yourself more and give yourself a little more space in here, and this is for the entrepreneurs, you become more credible. All of a sudden, you're not just taking your space, you're claiming your space. It will do something to you energetically. So it's an interesting phenomenon. And see, now we're going to get to where you're looking. And oftentimes, if you're recording on your phone, sometimes people don't know where to look in their phone. My phone, my lens is a pinprick. I had to go to the store when I first got this phone to know where to look in my lens to do a video, because it wasn't straight on looking at me. So sometimes, even with me right here, if I look at my webcam, which I'm using, you won't feel like I'm looking at you. I have an arbitrary spot on my computer where I put a little edge of a sticky note so I know that is where we meet. And it's so critical, especially if you're looking for a job, that that person watching feels you are present and meeting them, and you know where you're looking. So find that spot. And the wonderful thing about Ellie's platform, you can do a take, get rid of it. You can do another take, get rid of it. Post when you're happy with it. And I want to tell you this, really post when you're happy with it, because you don't want to undermine yourself. You don't want them passing you by because you put something out there where maybe you even were talking past your 30 seconds and we missed it. Or we're going to talk about smiling, little things that make such a difference in here. So post it when you're happy, which really gets us in here now we're going to really be focusing on content and about that 30 seconds. And we're going to get to a confidence piece too. What do we say in 30 seconds? Well, we know on this particular platform, you've got your photo, you've got your resume, and even if the written resume is something that is so old, and who knows, maybe people hiring don't even want to look at that. And Ellie, please tell me, and if there's anything in here, you put in your 2 cents because I defer to you. But they're likely going to peruse it. But what's on there that isn't being asked, that you didn't say? Yes, it's wonderful to start that 30 seconds with your name. It's your marker. I'm Genevieve, whatever. What is one question you wish people would ask you in an interview that they don't? Is there something you wish they'd ask you that maybe isn't on your resume that you want to say now? Because this is your meeting. When you walk into the interview, that's a little different. That takes a little different kind of preparation, a little different kind of guidance. But right now, this is your meeting. You set the rules, and you get to decide who you think you want to be in here in terms of, okay, I'm going to do it this way because if I seemed like this, I'd want to hire me. Trust yourself. Trust yourself to know who you want to be in here, to stake your claim. How do we get there? What do we know? How do we want to say what we want to say? Start writing. Whether it's by longhand or start typing. And this is true for entrepreneurs when it comes to video content. Start writing. Just get going. Is there something you want to say specific that a resume isn't reflecting, or that an entrepreneur wants to start saying for a video? And after you start, it's like a purge. Just get it out there and see what comes to the surface. And when you start looking at what you've written, start going back in and then taking out every word you don't need. It's like chipping away at sculpture and seeing what piece of art you've got left. Take the words out you don't need and see what comes to the surface. Go back in there again. Take out more words you don't need. I promise you, there are more in there you don't need. And then all of a sudden you're going to see, oh my God, I just said in 5 words what I could say in 2. Distill them. Get them really clean, really sharp, because when you get your words distilled, then you start coming into focus. But you also start finding out what you want to say. Maybe you know, I'm not a leader, although I can lead. I love leading in that one piece I get to be a part of, because what I want to be is part of a team. I want to be part of something larger. Maybe that's what you tell somebody who's hiring. But what is that thing that you felt good about that you accomplished, or how you know you fit? And when you're thinking about talking to these people, think about their culture. I know as entrepreneurs, we use words like love or passionate. I don't know that that's right for the culture of where you might be looking for a job. Is it, I know I excel at something. This is where I lean in. This is where I fit. What are those words? I want to also talk about a couple of examples. I saw a woman, clearly an experienced woman, very credible, very respectable, possibly an authority. And I saw on LinkedIn she did like a video introduction. And granted, sometimes we don't have our laptop quite right, so it's not straight on. And she was a little bit like this talking to us, as opposed to really getting that level where we're perpendicular. And I watched her kind of read that thing you put on a resume, or that thing you put in LinkedIn. And I could see her reading what she had written as this video introduction. And not only did I think, okay, what we're walking away with is you're probably very good at what you do and you're a good reader. But I can tell you're reading, and we got virtually nothing of meeting her. And she was saying a demonstrated history of da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And we know those words are from the written page. They are not the spoken word. And there's a big difference. Because when we want to meet somebody in video, we want to talk to them like people. Now, I would say a demonstrated history if I wanted to be in the FBI, very regulated, very regimented, it could work. But if I want to be in another kind of community or culture in a particular job, use the words of that culture. Try those on for size. Get to know those words so that you are also showing some respect for that culture when you are doing your video. Possibly the most important thing I would say to anyone here and now when it comes to video. Part of the reason we distill our message and get it as tight and concise as possible is the fewer words that get in our way, the more our audience can meet us. Words get in our way. The fewer give us the chance to meet you. Then there's just that much more stillness. And we're going to talk about racing the clock. That much more stillness, because it's in those moments of naturally speaking where we meet. So part of that, it's 30 seconds. It's fleeting. So if you say less, maybe you've got 20 seconds worth to say, then you can take your time in being a human being. If you race the clock, not only does it make you more nervous, but if you're trying to fit in so much, and I went here, and then I did this, and then, not only don't we have a chance for you to land and for us to meet you, we become aware of time. And then we aren't planted or grounded meeting you either. And then we just know we're watching someone race, trying to get some fleeting feeling that we got to know you, barely. We're going to get to some talking together because interaction is so important. Just want to add some things, especially for entrepreneurs, because we know that 30 seconds in a networking meeting, when we distill, what is it that we do? And I'm sure you've heard this before, and I'm going to reiterate what you may already know. But if you don't, it could be helpful. It is so critical to find, we're looking for verbs. We're looking for words that are visceral. Elaine Hausman, video performance coaching. I rescue people and businesses from committing video suicide. That's what I do. And you see it. And there it gives me the opportunity to talk about how I talk someone off the ledge. It's physical, it's visual. I know someone who slays dragons. I know someone who takes her clients' feet off the brake. I know people, look at this. I help women entrepreneurs make more money. Here's another one. I turn women entrepreneurs into money makers. There's some more power there. Could be a different brand, could be a different person, but we're looking for something that grabs our attention and distills who we are. So sometimes it's very helpful to sit around and think about, wow, I know what I do, and really get into that feeling, into that gut feeling of how you do it. And in finding those words, it can become much more powerful. We are getting to the point now where I want to be speaking to people. Ellie, what did I leave out? We've spoken together. What did I leave out? I thought of one more thing, especially for the job seekers, but whatever you decide in that 30-second video, be deliberate. Own it. And I am the first to say, your expectation, you can be where you are. And guess what? You're going to get on some interviews. Maybe you'll get some feedback. And nothing says you cannot change that video. All of a sudden you think, oh my God, I could do that so much better. I'm going to get on there again. Do it. You can always bring that new idea or some revelation you've got to just increase that, turn it on more, and you found something better to help yourself. Do it. You don't have to live with anything on there that isn't where you want it to be in any given moment, and just turn on your video and start getting a new one up there and just improving all the time. Ellie, what am I leaving out? Have I been helpful? Are we ready for questions?
I think that's wonderful. I think we did discuss something that I always struggle with, and it's probably more in a personal setting than with your 30 seconds, is filling that pause. If there's an awkward silence, I'm the first to say something just to say something. And I think you talk about the power of the pause.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it relates to, and Ellie said something on the website with the things she was saying to look at and to think about, ums and ahs. Ums and ahs really happen. And I'm not going to forget the pause. Ums and ahs happen because we don't know what we're saying next. It's a little bit because we're not strong enough at winging it yet. We haven't got that lexicon or what we want to share so dialed in enough that there could be ums and ahs. Now, any and ah is, we're human beings. It's okay. And we're allowed to think on our feet. When there are too many, that's your tell that, you know what? I need to think this through a little more. I want to just absolutely tack that down, that I know when I'm thinking about these things, that's where I want to go. Now, see that? I'm thinking where I want to go next. And I'm allowed to. We're allowed to take a pause. We're allowed to even say, where do I want to go next with this? Own it. You're allowed to own it. And there is something that is also something that Ellie's reflecting on, because I wrote about it recently, because the power of the pause, I never heard about the power of the pause until I became an entrepreneur and heard it from people in speaking programs, because I spent so many years as an actress, I never heard about the power of the pause. We knew on stage what it meant to take a moment. And a moment on the stage is where you and your audience meet in a space of something that requires silence, because there's been an emotional, a mental, something has happened so powerfully that the moment needs to be shared in silence, where you kind of collectively get on the same page and you share that moment. And we do know that pausing when we speak, not only does it allow things to land, but to meet. It has a lot to do with connection. This is a whole other topic, but part of what I think Ellie's getting at, especially in that 30-second resume, that if what you want to say becomes so simple and so distilled, that a wonderful friend, Andrea DeVoe, a real media expert, says, it gives the words a chance to breathe. When you give the words a chance to breathe, then you will end that video where that was enough. No one will feel like you got to the end and you meant to say more, or it wasn't enough. You filled what it needed to be. Hope this is helpful. Ellie, co-pilot?
Yes, and I think you've touched on so many helpful things. We've got a couple of questions in the chat. One from Marie, and we've done a couple of presentations on this together, and it's funny because it's good advice in my view, but I would disagree with it. And her advice is to stand up when you're in meetings, when you're presenting. So would you recommend standing up? I like to sit and just relax and be grounded, but I think there's power to standing. Do you have an opinion on this?
Oh, I love this question, and it's valuable. And I would say it's as specific as to any one person. In my living room over there, I give a workshop. And I'm showing lights, I'm showing my green screen. We're talking about all kinds of technical things. And once again, working from the outside inward. And I am without hesitation on my feet. And I'll tell you, it feels wonderful. I love it. For this today, there is a part of me that and this became much more so during the pandemic. I fell in love being at my desk because I feel a connectedness. Not that I can't when I'm standing too, I really do. But there's something about being at my desk and sitting that makes me feel community somehow better. This is and clearly my answer means it has to do with what works for you. So at my workshop, I'm on my feet, I'm moving around, I'm active, but I do feel, even when I'm sitting, I still feel energized. I still feel at any given moment, if I need to show you about my lighting, I will, whatever, so that there is something, sorry, hello, I even moved my lighting, so that there is that active feeling, and on it, whatever suits you best. What is good for your energy? I know many speaking coaches will say, do it, stand when you're da. Just depends on you.
I love that. I often get asked very specific advice, like, what do I say? What do I do? How do I do it? And one of the major points of the software is that it's really up to you. And I think you've really put that across very well. We cannot tell you what to say, how to say it, but we can, give a little bit of a hint as to common sense reasons.
Unless you work with me one-on-one, then we really drill down what you're going to say.
But finding your voice, and even when I did my video, years ago, I thought it would be so easy. I talk the talk, I better walk the walk. And so I did it, and I was like, goodness me, it's a long time, but it's a really short time. And 30 seconds, you can say quite a lot. But I do think it's worth practicing, timing yourself, practicing, writing it down. Don't have a script and read it. I think that's a really key takeaway from this. But do play with the words. I think, what you said about sculpting it, making it deliberate, making it articulate and very authentic is very powerful. And the hundreds of videos that we get on the website, a few of them are powerful and really impressive. And it's like, there was one person who was applying for a real estate sales job and recorded his video in front of his wall with his real estate license behind him. Intelligent. Another person recorded theirs in the airport, and I could hear the buzzer going off. And that was my printer, by the way, printing. Sorry about that background noise. Don't record yourself in a noisy environment. But honestly, I think there is so much value in distilling yourself in 30 seconds, being able to, here I am, without boring the audience, without intimidating the audience, without alienating the audience, but meeting the audience. And I really appreciate what you have to say about that. So thank you. But I would love to open the floor.
We're going to open the chat, but I want to say one thing. There sort of are no rules.
No, exactly.
You know what? I mean, granted, we have common sense. We know what we want the best outcome to be, but there's nothing that says we have to follow some rules. In any given instance, we choose what works for us best in that moment. And it gets us out of the way of thinking we're doing something wrong. And you know what? In terms of being authentic, I'm just going to say this. You have to work pretty hard to not be authentic. It takes a little work to sound like a car salesman in here if it's not already in your nature. So 9 times out of 10, we're going to be authentic. And the work in finding that message, it has so much to do with heart. It has so much to do with where you are inside that 9 times out of 10, that's what you're bringing. So you're going to be yourself. And if you aren't, then you get help. But anyway, the questions.
So can we say something about nerves? And again, I think maybe this could be tied into where we were before COVID versus where we are now, and sort of that familiarity with recording oneself, seeing oneself so often.
Wonderful. Nerves specifically to the video resume is about racing. So that will help you when you don't feel like you're trying to get something in within 30 seconds and you get that past you. That will help your nerves, because then you can land, then you can take some more time. But nerves in general, first of all, a lot of nerves can happen if you decide you're going live on any platform. And guess what? It is a little nerve-wracking. And I can tell you all the things about how to practice in Facebook Live so no one sees you, throw it away, no one's going to see it, and you practice and you make sure you found where to look so it looks like you're really looking at your audience, and you get all those bells and whistles down before you ever go live. But guess what? If nerves are really an issue for you, oh good. I'm so glad, Kim. If nerves are really an issue for you, nothing says you have to go live. Do a pre-recorded video. You'll get views. It's respectable. And a pre-recorded video, not unlike live, you get to throw away what you don't like. And with each take, you learn as you go. Did I really say what I wanted to say? Am I meandering?
No, I think that was great.
No. And I was saying that to myself in the video. Am I meandering? Am I staying on point? Did I really practice? Did I know what I want to say before I turn it on? And guess what? Over time, what's really cool, when I meander, wow, did I find something I really want to say? And that is where the video is. I'm starting again. I just found it. Yes, Renee, I see you shaking your head. It's true. Clearly you've experienced that. So
I think Brene Brown has a wonderful expression, FFT, effing first times. And any of you familiar with that? And it's true. The first time you do anything, it's going to be terrifying, but at least it's done. And the second time is never as terrifying, and you will improve, but it does come with practice. And the same thing with introducing yourself, recorded or not recorded, or talking on video, or hearing yourself on podcasts and things like that. The first time it's like, but after time you get used to it, and then you own it. I think you mentioned that as well, owning it and acceptance of this is where I'm at, this is who I am, and that's kind of cool. And all the experiences of life have contributed to where you are, and you should be proud of that and introduce yourself with pride. So I think it's a very valuable exercise. Now, do we have any other questions for Elaine?
I think
you covered the going live thing.
I see Maria wrote something.
Oh, Judson has a question.
Please.
I guess it's more of a comment in the sense of what you just said about, the first time. I think it's very valuable for any and all of us to really take that pressure off ourselves and say, okay, this does not have to happen in one take, right? I mean, practice it and over and over. And that's really, I think, going to be one of the things that will relieve some stress or pressure, self-imposed. But just remember, it's like saying, I'm going to work out starting tomorrow, and then on Thursday I run a marathon, right? You wouldn't do that to yourself physically. So mentally, cut yourself some slack and just say, you know what, this is a first step. Doesn't have to be perfect. Excellence does not require perfection, and I think if you just kind of keep that in mind as you go through the whole process, it'll probably come across as more authentic and genuine.
Beautiful. I second every emotion. Absolutely.
Thank you, Judson.
It's the first step in anything we ever learned. We started in the beginning.
Has anyone else got any questions? If you could raise your hand, that would be very helpful. I'm just scrolling through.
And I know, I'm just going to add while you're scrolling, when I do workshops and I'm really talking very specifically, and I think we might all be, educators or entrepreneurs today. I don't know if there's job seekers in the room, but that's where we really talk more about writing and chipping away to find whether it's the gem or whether it's the sculpture, whether it is that distilled message you want to say. And sometimes I'll have maybe 3 short paragraphs. And then I start moving furniture. All of a sudden I realize that bottom, that belongs at the beginning. That's the grabber. And then goes the logic. So I'll start moving things around. And it really, I will just say, the more your words come in to view, so do you. Everything in here is about coming into focus, whether it's our lighting, whether it's our sound, whether it's the environment we create, and including what we say and how it helps us become who we are in here. Wonderful. Kim, where is the best place to look if not directly at the camera to connect? So here's what I do. I have a webcam, and some people who have a laptop, they have it situated in such a way that it's perfect. They look right at their camera and it's exactly like they're looking at their audience. Not everyone's as lucky depending upon your setup. And I have a webcam. So here I am looking at my webcam and it doesn't look like I'm looking at you at all. And what I've done is I've gone into Zoom and I've started recording myself. And I started playing where I thought I was really looking at my audience. And I would take the edge of a sticky note and create a little piece of confetti. And I would start marking on my monitor. It's completely arbitrary. It has nothing to do with my camera. Start putting it on my monitor. And then I talk myself, I'm looking at number 1. I'm looking at number 2. I have a feeling 2 is it. I think they're going to feel bad. And go out, watch that recording. Which one was it? Go back in again. Maybe it'll take you a couple of tries. But I literally feel that I am looking at you with a little sticky note piece. It's got to be 4 inches below the lens of my webcam. Find that spot. In the same way, if you're using your phone, if you don't know where the lens is on your camera, and it's not always easy to know. I think the iPhones might be easier because I think there's a big dot. I'm not sure, but I've got an LG and it's a pinprick. So find that spot, and then not only does your audience appreciate the fact that you're looking at them, then you are in touch with that portal to them. That gives you the power to start feeling and imagining that you're getting through to them, that you have a chance to connect there. Helpful, Kim?
Love that. And also with that in mind, bear in mind your audience at all times, whether you're writing your resume or you're in an interview or you're recording your video or you're meeting a potential partner as an entrepreneur. What's in it for them? Why do they want to be here? Why should they connect with you? And it's not about me, it's about them. And I think that's important to always remember, because what would you want to watch? Who do you like to look at and why? And what is it about them that, makes them interesting? That's why I'm always wary about giving too many examples of how-tos and things like that, because it really is about you and your audience. Who are you? Who is your audience? What is your why? And then putting that across, I think is very valuable.
It's such a personal relationship. And I'm going to mention something else just because I'm talkative, and you'll stop me if you have questions. Sometimes people will come to me about, this is about nerves. And I did a workshop, and this precious woman who was so funny, so witty, and did a very funny Instagram video. And she wanted to do more. And she said, Elaine, I really want to be an Instagram star. And I said, well, we'll think about the star part later. But right now, what's the concern? She said, I'm so nervous. I don't know where to start. And she has 2 gorgeous little boys, and they were part of the video. And I said, Angela, what if every time you started a video, you privately said to yourself, this is for my boys? I saw her shoulders drop. And I don't know if she used it or not, that she has done beautifully on Instagram. And there was a very famous media coach in the 70s named Dorothy Sarnoff. She was responsible for turning down the wattage on the smile of President Jimmy Carter. They felt his smile was unpresidential. And she worked with ambassadors and senators. She was really famous, and she would present often on television, often, in front of a podium. And she privately said to herself, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad you're here. And that was how she dove off every time. We all have that place we can go to inside. We can find for ourselves a thought, a feeling, an image, that place where we know we're connected. In terms of who you're talking to, I want you to know, I am not talking to a person. I'm talking to an aspect of a person. I don't have some visual identity of my avatar, the ideal person. I don't. I'm talking to something that is an aspect. There's also nothing that says every video, no one will know. You're talking to your poodle, because every time you speak, there he is, listening to your every word, your best audience member. No one knows what helps you connect. And it's that connection and that place you find inside that will help with your nerves as well. And I will mention one more thing. There was a woman I worked with, and she came to me specifically for this. And she was very spiritual. And I said, you know what? You need to find your mantra. Where is it that you start? And I'll never forget the day, because she went off to do her work. Elaine, I found it. God, she's good in video. She is an anchor. She is so good at what she does, and she knows exactly where she is. I'm stopping now, opening the floor.
That was a wonderful way to wrap it up. Elaine, I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. I know there are a couple more specific questions, but I do want to be respectful of everybody's time, and we've got 5 minutes left. I am so grateful. Thank you, Elaine. And on behalf of everybody here, honestly, that was really insightful, really helpful and empowering. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ellie will be sharing a workshop I will really be doing for job seekers. And she will also be sharing that if you ever want a conversation, 20-minute time to talk, what video is like for you, where you are, maybe where you want to go, and hear what it might be like, what that process might be like to work together. You got me. You tell me, and we'll set up a time. I thank you so many of you for coming today to see a complete stranger. I respect you. And Ellie,
for me.
thank you.
So all the
Thank you.
information is in the chat, and you can, I will email